Eric Carter stood at the window of the observation deck, watching the alien ships move through space like glowing fish in a dark sea. In his 20 years as a diplomat, he had never seen the Galactic Council so busy. Today was important. Today might be the day everything changed. "Captain Carter, they're ready for us," said Amanda Fisher as she joined him. Her science uniform looked crisp and clean next to his more worn diplomatic attire. Eric nodded. "Let's hope they actually listen this time." They walked together through the gleaming halls of the Council station. Aliens of all kinds moved around them. Some had too many eyes. Others had blue or green skin. A few floated instead of walked. Once, humans had been amazed by these sights. Now they just reminded Eric of how alone humans were in this vast galaxy. The council chamber doors opened with a soft hiss. Inside, 12 alien representatives sat in a half-circle on raised platforms. In the center was a single, smaller seat, the human seat. Captain Eric Carter and Chief Science Officer Amanda Fisher of Earth announced the computer voice. Eric felt the familiar weight of their stares as he and Amanda took their places. The council had never treated humans as equals, but lately things had gotten worse. Councillor Zexteri of the Vesperian Empire leaned forward. His insect-like features showed no emotion, but his voice carried clear disdain. "We have reviewed your petition for equal resource rights. It has been denied." "On what grounds?" Eric asked, keeping his voice calm despite the anger building inside him. "Humans have not proven themselves worthy of such resources," said Zexteri. "Your species is too unpredictable, too dangerous." "We've been peaceful members of this council for 30 years, Eric replied. "We've shared our medicine, our art, our technology." "Limited technology," interrupted Councillor Gren, a gray-skinned being with 4 arms. "You keep your best advances secret. We all know this." Amanda stepped forward. "We've shared everything required by our treaties, but that's not the real issue today, is it? You've been cutting our supply lines. 3 human colonies are facing food shortages because of your new restrictions." A murmur went through the chamber. Eric noticed that not all the councillors seemed comfortable with this conversation. "Safety measures," said Zexteri dismissively. "Which brings us to our main point. The council has decided that human military ships must be placed under direct council control for everyone's safety." The room went silent. Eric felt cold. This was worse than he had imagined. "You want us to surrender our fleet?" he asked. "Not surrender. Simply accept protective oversight." Eric looked around the room, hoping to find at least one sympathetic face. Councillor Xindrel of the Phaedon gave him a small nod. At least someone understood what this meant. "This is completely unacceptable," Eric said firmly. "Earth will never give up its right to self-defense." "It is not a request, Captain," said Zexteri. "It is a directive. You have 30 Earth days to comply." On the journey back to Earth, Eric and Amanda sat silently in the ship's meeting room. Finally, Amanda spoke. "They're afraid of us." Eric nodded. "They've always been afraid, but now they're doing something about it." "What will President Gonzalez say?" Amanda asked. "She'll say what I'm thinking. This isn't about safety. It's about control." Eric pulled up the communicator. "We need to talk to Admiral Blackwell and the intelligence office. This situation is worse than we thought." Amanda hesitated. "Should I tell you about Project Exodus now, or wait for the official meeting?" Eric looked at her sharply. "Project what?" "Something we've been working on at Europa Station. A contingency plan, in case the council ever went too far." She met his eyes. "I think we just reached too far." As their ship approached the blue-green sphere of Earth, Eric wondered if he was seeing his home planet for one of the last times. The council had finally shown their true intentions. Now humans would show theirs. Whatever Project Exodus was, Eric was certain of one thing: humans wouldn't bow down. They might just walk away instead. The meeting room in the White House basement was packed with the most important people on Earth. President Lisa Gonzalez sat at the head of the table, her face serious as she listened to Eric Carter finish his report. "So that's it," Eric said. "The Council wants our ships in 30 days. They want to strip us of our ability to defend ourselves." Admiral John Blackwell, a tall man with gray hair and sharp eyes, slammed his fist on the table. This was always their plan. Let us join their precious council, then slowly take everything from us. "We should fight," said Eliza Daniels from Intelligence. "We have hidden strengths they don't know about." President Gonzalez raised her hand for quiet. Fighting the entire Galactic Council would cost millions of lives. There must be another option. She turned to Amanda Fisher. "You mentioned something called Project Exodus. Now's the time to explain." Amanda nodded and stood up. She touched a control, and a hologram appeared above the table. It showed Jupiter and its moons. "For the past 8 years, we've been working in secret on Europa. The Council thinks we're just mining ice there." She changed the image to show massive ships hidden inside the moon. "We've built generation ships, enough to carry all of humanity if we had to leave." The room went silent. "Leave? Leave the solar system?" Admiral Blackwell asked, shocked. "Not just the solar system," Amanda said. "Leave Council space entirely. We found a way to travel beyond the areas they control." "How is this possible?" Eric asked. "The Council monitors all long-range travel." Amanda smiled. "Not all of it. We've developed technology we never shared with them. Faster ships, better shields, ways to hide our movements." "And weapons?" Admiral Blackwell asked. "Yes," Amanda admitted, "though we hoped never to need them." President Gonzalez stood up and walked to the window. Outside, Washington, D.C. looked peaceful in the spring sunshine. Citizens walked the streets, not knowing their fate was being decided. "How long would it take," she asked, "to evacuate Earth and all our colonies?" 3 months, Amanda said. "If we start now and work in secret." "The Council would never allow it," Eliza pointed out. "They wouldn't know," Amanda replied. "Not until it was too late." Admiral Blackwell pulled up his own data screen. "I could gradually reposition our fleet, make it look like normal movements while actually preparing for a complete withdrawal." President Gonzalez turned back to the room. "What about our people who have married aliens? Those with deep connections to Council worlds?" "They would have a choice," Amanda said. "But they need to understand, once we're gone, we're gone." Eric thought about what this meant. We'd be leaving behind everything we've built out there. Trading posts, research stations, diplomatic ties. "Yes," said President Gonzalez, "but we'd be keeping our freedom." She looked at each person in the room, one by one. "I need your honest opinions, all of you." Admiral Blackwell spoke first. "The Council has been squeezing us tighter every year. It won't stop with our ships. Next will be our research, then our right to travel, then who knows what. I say we leave." Eliza nodded. "My people report the same. This isn't a temporary measure. It's the beginning of the end for human independence." Eric thought about his years trying to work with the Council, the constant battles for even small concessions, the growing disrespect. "They've never seen us as equals," he said, "and they never will." President Gonzalez took a deep breath. "Then it's decided. We enact Project Exodus, effective immediately. But quietly. The Council must not suspect anything until we're ready." As the meeting ended, Eric stopped Amanda in the hallway. "You've been planning this for years," he said. "Did you always think it would come to this?" Amanda looked tired but determined. "We hoped for the best, but we prepared for the worst." Outside, the sun was setting on Earth. Soon it would set on humanity's time in Council Space 2. Kevin Walsh hugged his faded friend one last time. The alien's blue skin felt cool against his own. "I wish you didn't have to return to Earth so suddenly," said Krelll. "Will you come back soon?" Kevin nodded, trying to hide the truth in his eyes. "Sure, business trips never last long. But he knew he would never see this space station or his alien friend again. All across Council space, scenes like this played out. Humans said goodbye, made excuses, and quietly disappeared. One by one, then in groups, then in larger numbers. They left behind jobs and some possessions, but took what mattered most. On Europa, Jupiter's icy moon, Dr. Samantha Rivera worked without rest. The massive caverns inside the moon buzzed with activity as the enormous generation ships prepared for their journey. Status report. She called to her team. FTL drives at 94% readiness, said her assistant. The masking technology is fully operational. When these ships move, no one in Council space will detect them. Samantha checked her datapad. According to the latest numbers, nearly 40% of humanity had already been moved to safety. The Council still suspected nothing. In the Grand Council chamber, Councillor Krelll of the Faden noticed something unusual. The human trade reports showed a 15% drop in the last month. Not enough to cause alarm, but enough to notice. Has anyone else observed changes in human activity? Krelll asked during a minor session. Councillor Terry waved a dismissive limb. They are simply being difficult about our new directives. They will comply when the deadline comes. I'm not so sure, said Krelll. My sources say many humans have returned to Earth for family emergencies or business meetings. More than is normal. Let them sulk on their home planet, another councillor said. They'll realize they need us more than we need them. At the Europa base, Admiral Blackwell coordinated the movement of Earth's military ships. Unlike the civilian evacuation, which happened in small groups, the military withdrawal would need to happen all at once. We'll position most of our fleet near Neptune, he told his captains. When the signal comes, we make one jump directly to the rendezvous point beyond Council space. What about our ships currently docked at Council stations? Asked Captain Patricia Miller. They have received special orders, Admiral Blackwell said. They know what to do. On Earth, city by city, people packed up and left. They told neighbors they were going on vacation or visiting family. The great evacuation ships came down at night in remote areas, loaded people and essential supplies, then vanished back into space. In New York, San Francisco, and other major cities, the streets grew subtly emptier each day. Stores closed. Homes were left vacant, but it happened slowly enough that those who remained didn't quite notice the pattern. 3 weeks into the evacuation, President Gonzalez received news that made her smile for the first time in days. 70% complete, her aide reported. We're ahead of schedule. And the Council? She asked. Still in the dark. They've noticed some economic disruptions but haven't connected the dots. They believe we're just being stubborn about the fleet directive. President Gonzalez looked out over the White House lawn, now mostly staffed by robots, and the few humans who would stay until the very end. How ironic, she said. Their arrogance is actually helping us escape them. In his apartment on Alpha Centauri colony, Eric Carter packed the last of his personal items. This colony had been humanity's first step into the stars. Now it would be among the last places they left. His communication device flashed with a message from Amanda. Europa ships ready. Final phase begins tomorrow. Eric looked around his empty home. Across human space, millions were doing the same, quietly walking away from a council that had never truly welcomed them. Soon, the council would have what it apparently wanted, a galaxy without humans. Eric wondered how long it would take them to regret it. The council chamber buzzed with whispers. Something was different today. The normally half-empty visitor seats were filled with aliens from every corner of the galaxy. Word had spread that the humans had requested a special session. Eric Carter stood outside the chamber doors, adjusting his formal uniform one last time. Today wasn't just another diplomatic meeting. Today was the day humanity said goodbye. Are you ready? Amanda Fisher asked beside him. As ready as I'll ever be, Eric replied. Is everything else in place? Amanda nodded. President Gonzalez and the last government officials leave Earth in 6 hours. Dr. Rivera has activated the planetary shield system. 97% of all humans have already left Council space. The chamber doors opened. Eric took a deep breath and walked inside. Captain Eric Carter of Earth, the announcement system chimed. As Eric walked to the center of the room, he noticed the confusion on the council members' faces. Normally, a human delegation would include several people. Today, it was just him. Counselors, Eric began, his voice strong and clear. I come before you today with an important message from Earth. Counselor Zex Terry leaned forward. If this is about the fleet directive, you have only 3 days remaining to comply. This is not about the directive, Eric said. This is about humanity's future. As of this moment, Earth and all human colonies formally withdraw from the Galactic Council. The chamber erupted in noise. Aliens shouted questions and objections. Some laughed, thinking it was a joke. Counselor Krelll raised a hand for silence. Captain Carter, you cannot simply withdraw. There are procedures, treaties, obligations. All treaties have been fulfilled, Eric said. All debts have been paid. All obligations have been met. We are free to leave, and we have chosen to do so. This is absurd, Zex Terry said. Where would you even go? All habitable systems are within Council space. Eric allowed himself a small smile. That is not entirely accurate, but where we go is no longer your concern. A new wave of voices filled the room. Eric waited patiently until the High Counselor called for order. Even if you wish to leave, said the High Counselor, it would take years to relocate your people and assets. It would, Eric agreed, if we were just starting now. The room grew quiet as the implication of his words sank in. What do you mean? Asked Counselor Zex Terry, his voice suddenly less confident. I mean that humanity began leaving 3 months ago, Eric said. While you were debating how to control us, we were quietly walking away. 97% of all humans have already left Council space. Stunned silence filled the chamber. Then chaos erupted again. Impossible, shouted Zex Terry. Check your records, Eric suggested. Look at the patterns, the gradual reduction in trade, the slow emptying of human settlements. We didn't flee in panic. We simply left. On screens around the chamber, data began to appear as council members frantically searched for confirmation. Trade volumes had indeed been declining. Human outposts reported as fully staffed were showing minimal life signs when scanned now. You can't do this, Zex Terry insisted. The council depends on human goods and services for countless essential functions. Yes, Eric said, his voice growing harder. It does. Perhaps you should have considered that before treating us as second-class members. Counselor Krelll looked troubled. Where have your people gone, Captain? To a place beyond council reach, Eric answered, where we can build our own future, free from restrictions and prejudice. This will mean economic collapse for many systems, warned another counselor. You must reconsider. Eric shook his head. The decision is made. The evacuation is nearly complete. Earth itself will be empty by tomorrow. He placed a small device on the floor. It projected a hologram of President Gonzalez. People of the Galactic Council, the recording said, we came to you in peace and good faith. We shared our knowledge and worked alongside you for decades. In return, you sought to control us. Today, we choose freedom over submission. Humanity walks away. The hologram faded. Eric bowed slightly to the council. This is the last time you will see a human representative in this chamber. Goodbye. As Eric walked out, the sound of panicked voices followed him. Behind those voices was something new. 1 month after humanity's departure, the Galactic Council faced its first major crisis. On the planet Velos Prime, hospitals ran out of vital medicines that only humans had known how to make. Thousands grew sick. The Council promised replacements, but none came. How could this happen? Demanded the Velosian representative during an emergency meeting. You assured us that human goods could be replaced. Counselor Zex Terry had no good answer. The truth was becoming clear. The Council had severely underestimated its dependence on humans. In the busy trading hub of Centauri Station, once filled with merchants from 100 worlds, half the shops stood empty. The station's manager, a six-limbed Draxian, stared at his financial reports with despair. "Another bankrupt business," he told his assistant. "That makes 32 this week. Without human traders and customers, we're dying." Across Council space, the story repeated. Shipyards sat idle without human engineers. Research projects stalled without human scientists. Entertainment venues closed without human artists and audiences. The great economic web that connected the galaxy had lost a critical thread, and now it was unraveling. From the safety of humanity's new home, Olivia Martinez monitored Council communications. Once a top intelligence agent, she now served as Earth's eyes and ears on their former allies. "It's getting worse," she reported to President Gonzalez. 3 major banking systems have collapsed. Food shortages are reported on 14 worlds. The Council is trying to hide the extent of the damage, but they can't contain it much longer. President Gonzalez nodded grimly. "And military situations. That's the most interesting part," Olivia said. "Council ships are breaking down. It seems humans were handling maintenance on critical systems that other species either couldn't or wouldn't do. Some vessels can't even leave their docks." In a private council session, the harsh reality could no longer be denied. "Humans comprised only 8% of our population," said Councillor Mrek of the Volani. "How could they have been so essential to our economy?" An economic advisor stepped forward. "They worked in key positions across multiple industries. They innovated at rates other species couldn't match. And most importantly, they shared their knowledge freely, until we began restricting them." "Can we replace their functions?" asked the High Counselor. "Eventually, perhaps, but it will take years, possibly decades." On the outer rim of Council space, the first signs of a new problem emerge. The Taurani, a usually peaceful species, raided a Vesperian colony for medical supplies. When confronted by Council authorities, the Taurani leader was unapologetic. "Our children are dying without human medicines," she said. "The Council promised alternatives but delivered nothing. We did what we had to do." Similar incidents multiplied in the following weeks. Species that had lived together peacefully for centuries now fought over dwindling resources. Council peacekeeping forces struggled to maintain order. In his luxurious private chambers, Councillor Zexteri reviewed the latest economic projections with growing alarm. His own family's vast trading empire had lost 60% of its value in just 1 month. If things continued this way, they would be ruined within a year. "We must find the humans," he told his advisors. "Convince them to return." "But how?" asked one. "They left no trace of where they went. Our best tracking systems found nothing." "Someone must know something," Zexteri insisted. "Offer rewards. Hunt down any humans who might have stayed behind. We need to open communications before it's too late." Little did Zexteri know that things were about to get much worse. On the edges of Council space, sensors began picking up unusual activities. An old enemy, long contained by Council military might, had noticed the sudden weakness in their adversaries' defenses. The Krelll Dominion, aggressive and expansionist, had been held back for decades by the combined forces of the Council. Forces that, unknown to most citizens, had relied heavily on human military expertise and personnel. Now, with those forces crippled by humanity's absence, the Krelll began to move. The economic crisis was just the beginning. War was coming. The first attack came without warning. 3 Krelll warships appeared near the peaceful colony world of New Terra Nova. The colony had once been shared by humans and the bird-like Avari. Now, with humans gone, only Avari remained. The Krelll ships opened fire without sending any messages. Defense systems failed. Within hours, the colony was in ruins. In the Council emergency chamber, Military Commander Grav Thull slammed his fist on the table as he delivered the news. 3,000 dead. The entire colony lost. The Krelll took everything of value and left. His gray skin had turned almost white with stress. "How did they get past our early warning systems?" demanded the High Counselor. "The systems were there, but the humans who operated them were not," Krelll admitted. "We had replacements in training, but they missed the signs." Counselor Krelll looked troubled. "And our response?" "We sent ships, but they arrived too late." Krelll hesitated. "And there is worse news. The Krelll fleet is larger than our intelligence suggested. They appear to have been building forces for years, waiting for an opportunity." "An opportunity we have now given them," Zexteri said bitterly. Within days, the Krelll struck again. 2 more colonies fell. This time, the Council managed to send ships in time to fight, but the results were disastrous. "We lost 7 vessels," Krelll reported at the next emergency meeting. Krelll losses were minimal. "How is this possible?" asked Zexteri. "Our technology is superior." "Technology means nothing without proper tactics," Krelll said. "For years, human officers created our battle plans. Human pilots flew our most difficult missions. Human engineers maintained our weapon systems. We grew to rely on them. And now we are paying the price." The council chamber fell silent as this truth sank in. "The Krelll are advancing toward the Rigel sector," Krelll continued. "If they take Rigel, they will have a clear path to the core worlds. Then we must stop them at Rigel," the High Counselor declared. Krelll nodded grimly. "I have ordered all available ships there, but I must be honest, our chances are not good." Far from Council space, in humanity's new home system, Lieutenant Ryan Murphy monitored the Krelll advance from a listening post. The humans had established their new civilization around a star they named Haven, with outposts throughout the system. "Another Council defeat," he told his superior officer. "The Krelll destroyed their defense fleet at New Terra Nova. They barely put up a fight." Commander Diane Scott studied the data. "The Council never understood what they had in us. Humans made up over 60% of actual combat personnel in joint operations. We were the backbone of their military might." "Should we help them?" Murphy asked. "That's not our decision to make," Commander Scott replied. "President Gonzalez and her cabinet are discussing it now." In the Grand Meeting Hall on Haven Prime, the new human capital, President Gonzalez faced a divided government. "The Council treated us like second-class citizens," argued Defense Minister Alan Peters. "Why should we risk human lives to save them?" "Because innocent people are dying," countered Secretary Julia Bennett. "Not just Council officials, but ordinary civilians. People who never did us any harm." President Gonzalez raised her hand for quiet. "Both arguments have merit. But there's a third factor to consider. If the Krelll defeat the Council completely, how long until they find us?" The room fell silent. "We left to secure our freedom," Gonzalez continued. "But that freedom will mean nothing if the Krelll conquer the galaxy. They would never allow us to exist independently." Amanda Fisher, now science director, spoke up. "There's something else to consider. With the new technologies we've developed since leaving, we are far stronger than when we departed. The Council doesn't know our true capabilities. Neither do the Krelll." President Gonzalez nodded. "Then perhaps it's time to show them." She turned to Admiral Blackwell. "Prepare a small fleet, fast ships, our best weapons. I want a force ready to make contact with the Council within 48 hours." The decision was made. Humanity would return to the stars they had left, but this time on their own terms. The Council ship limped through space, damaged but still moving. On its bridge, a delegation of 5 Council representatives waited nervously. They had been traveling for weeks, following faint traces and rumors of human activity. "Are you sure this is the right direction?" asked Zexteri, who had insisted on leading the mission himself. The pilot, a blue-skinned Phaeton named Krelll, nodded. "The signal is getting stronger. Something is out there." Counselor Krelll stood by the view screen. "The Krelll have taken 6 more systems since we left. The outer defense line has completely collapsed. No one responded. They all knew the truth. Without help, the Council would fall to the Krelll within months. Suddenly, the ship's sensors beeped urgently. Multiple vessels approaching. Krelll announced, fear in his voice. They appeared out of nowhere. Our sensors didn't detect them until they were almost on top of us. Human technology, whispered Krelll. It must be. A voice came through the communication system, speaking the common galactic language. Council vessel, this is Captain William Foster of the Human Defense Force. State your purpose in this region. Zex Terry stepped forward. This is Counselor Zex Terry of the Galactic Council. We come seeking the human government on an urgent diplomatic matter. There was a pause. Then, follow our lead ship. Any deviation from the course will be considered hostile action. 4 sleek, silver ships surrounded the Council vessel. They looked nothing like the human ships the Council had seen before. These were clearly more advanced, their hulls smooth and seamless, their engines silent. The small fleet traveled for several hours until a star came into view, with several planets orbiting it. By the Ancient Ones, Krelll gasped as they approached the 3rd planet. They'd built all this in just 6 months. Below them, a beautiful blue-green world shimmered. But unlike Earth, this planet featured massive floating cities in its skies, glittering structures that seemed to be made of light and metal combined. Orbital stations formed a protective ring around the planet, and dozens of ships moved in organized patterns. Welcome to Haven, Captain Foster's voice announced. You will dock at Station Alpha and be escorted to the surface. When the Council delegation stepped onto Haven's soil, they could barely hide their shock. The human city before them looked like something from the far future. Buildings rose and curved in ways that seemed to defy physics. Vehicles moved through the air without visible engines. People walked the streets looking healthy and happy. A familiar face greeted them. Eric Carter, now dressed in civilian clothes rather than his old diplomatic uniform. Counselor Zex Terry, Eric said with a slight bow. This is unexpected. Not as unexpected as all this, Zex Terry replied, gesturing at the city around them. How is this possible? You left Council space only 6 months ago. Eric smiled. We had been preparing for years. And without Council restrictions on our technology, we've advanced quickly. He gestured for them to follow. President Gonzalez has agreed to meet with you. The government building was simple but elegant. Inside, President Gonzalez sat at a round table with several advisors, including Amanda Fisher. Counselors, Gonzalez greeted them. I assume this isn't a social visit. Zex Terry, normally proud and confident, looked humbled. We come seeking help. The Krelll have broken through our defenses. They have taken 9 systems and killed millions. Without assistance, the Council will fall. And why should we help? Asked Amanda. The Council made it clear we weren't valued. We were wrong, said Krelll simply. We failed to appreciate what humans brought to the galaxy. We treated you unfairly, and now we are paying the price. Zex Terry stepped forward and did something unprecedented. He bowed low, a sign of complete submission in Vesperian culture. On behalf of the Council, I formally apologize to humanity. We ask not as rulers or even equals, but as suppliants. Help us survive the Krelll threat. President Gonzalez exchanged looks with her advisors. Then she stood. The Krelll are a threat to all sentient life, not just the Council. We will help you fight them. Her expression hardened, but not on the old terms. If humans return to Council space, it will be as true equals, with full rights and recognition. Anything, agreed Zex Terry. The Council will agree to anything you ask. For the first time since their arrival, Eric smiled. Be careful what you promise, Counselor. You haven't even seen our conditions yet. 3 days later, the Council representatives sat stunned as they read the Human Galactic Accord. President Gonzalez and her advisors waited patiently for their response. These terms are, Zex Terry struggled for words. Fair, finished Krelll. Surprisingly fair, given how we treated humans. The accord was simple but revolutionary. Humans would return to help fight the Krelll, but as an independent power, not as council members. They would share certain technologies but keep others private. Human colonies would be returned, with additional territories granted as compensation. Most importantly, a new joint leadership body would replace the old council, one where all species had equal representation. "Your people will accept this?" asked Sexteri. "They already have," said President Gonzalez. "Now the question is whether yours will." "They have no choice," said Krelll. "Without human help, there will be no council left to govern." The signing ceremony was brief. When the last signature was in place, Amanda Fisher stepped forward. "Now let's discuss the Krelll. Our intelligence suggests they're planning a major assault on Rigel Prime in 6 days. We need to move quickly." As the council delegation returned home with the signed accord, Captain William Foster prepared the human fleet. 50 advanced warships, more than anyone had known humans possessed, gathered above Haven. "Remember," Foster told his captains, "this is not just about saving the council. It's about showing them who we really are, what humans are capable of when we're free to reach our potential." On the Galactic Council homeworld, news of the accord spread quickly. Many were shocked by the generous terms humans had offered. Others were simply relieved that help was coming. The Krelll had taken 3 more systems while the delegation was away. "We should have treated them as equals from the beginning," admitted an elderly counselor to Sexteri in a private meeting. "Why didn't we?" "Fear," Sexteri said simply. "We saw their potential and feared what they might become. So we tried to contain them, and in doing so, nearly destroyed ourselves." Near Rigel Prime, the combined human and council fleet gathered to face the Krelll invasion force. Council officers watched in amazement as the human ships moved into position. Their technology was unlike anything they had seen before, sleek, efficient, and incredibly powerful. Military Commander Graf Full stood on his bridge, watching the human vessels with a mixture of admiration and regret. "If only we had let them develop this technology while they were with us," he said to his second-in-command. "Instead, we forced them to hide their advances." The battle began at dawn, ship time. The Krelll came in force, over 200 warships, expecting an easy victory against the weakened council defenses. Instead, they found a waiting trap. Human ships moved with impossible speed and precision. Their weapons cut through Krelll shields as if they weren't there. Council vessels, now properly maintained by returned human engineers, performed better than they had in years. Within hours, the battle was over. The Krelll fleet lay in ruins, with only a few ships escaping back to their territory. The combined fleet had lost only 12 vessels, none of them human. On Rigel Prime, a celebration began. Humans walked among council species as heroes. Children of a dozen different worlds asked for their autographs and stories. In a quiet corner of the main celebration hall, Eric Carter found himself face to face with Sexteri. "I never thought I would see this day," the Vesperian admitted. "Humans and council species fighting side by side, as true equals. It could have happened years ago," Eric pointed out, "if you had just treated us with respect." "A lesson painfully learned," Sexteri acknowledged. "One the council will not forget." "See that you don't," Eric said, his voice friendly but firm. "Because now you know the truth. Humans don't need the council to survive. We proved that. We walked away and built something better in just 6 months. And yet you came back to help us," Sexteri observed. Eric smiled. "That's the other truth about humans you should remember. We may walk away when mistreated, but we'll always extend a hand to those truly in need. That's who we are." As fireworks lit the night sky of Rigel Prime, humans and aliens celebrated together. A new era had begun, one of true partnership rather than domination. The council had learned its lesson. Never underestimate humans, and never, ever make them walk away.